I have the unenabled task of keeping all of them awake, right? Including myself. And this is about building a 3-tier application, something which people do on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so this session is around how do you build a 3-tier application using the WCF RIA Services. My name is Harish. I work as an application platform evangelist with Microsoft India. And specifically this session, I want to make it as boring as possible. Right? I have, so we have 50 minutes time. I have 100 slides. How about it? All right. That's just to keep all of you awake. There is no slide in this session. There's no slide, only notepad. So I'm going to use this notepad like a whiteboard for me to share some ideas with you and also develop an application probably within this 50 minutes time to make sure that. So before I start this, how many of you are working with WCF RIA Services? Okay, some of you, 1, 1.5, 2.5, right? And how many of you work with WCF here? A lot of you, right? Good. So this will probably be a good intro to RIA services for many of you. And how many of you follow IPL here? Okay, quite a few of you. So the reason I asked this question is that I want to make the IPL as the scenario for this session. I have been running around a lot of places for TechEd and other events the last few months, and it has been extremely difficult for me to follow IPL. And one way you can follow it after the match is the website where you can go and find out what's happened with the team there. Right? And so I was wondering, what does it take for me to create a portal like that within a very short time? And how does it work when you want to do this yourself instead of waiting for somebody else to do this there? I know there are portals already available, but I wanted to share how much time it takes for somebody to build a portal like that using Visual Studio 2010, RIA Services, and ASP.NET. Sounds interesting? Right. So for that, the first thing I did was I created a few databases. So you can see that I have a database called IPL T20. So that is my database, and I have a few tables as you can see here. Not exhaustive, matches, players, probably player teams, team points, teams, and then top scorers, right? Some tables there. I have a couple of views as well, and I have a few procedures as well, which probably I'll use there, right? And what am I using here? I'm using SQL Server 2008 R2 edition, but it has nothing to do with SQL Server 2008. You can do it with 2000 or even with your Access database or whatever you want to use there, right? So these are the procedures. So if you want to see some sample data, so let's start from team points. You can see, right? You can make out wonderful stuff from this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You can find out who's on top from this. And so that is my database. And what I'm opening up now is the VS 2010 there. So first of all, before I start this, I know it's like very difficult for you to understand why I'm talking all these things, right? So we have UI layer technologies with WPF, ASP.NET, Silverlight, right? How many of you work with Silverlight here? A lot of you, right? And we have our data access technologies, data access layer where you can use your ADO.NET, SQL connection command, etc., all these things. And you also have entity framework, you have link to SQL, and you have many other things, right? A lot of things to do. You can use third-party tools like Hibernate as well. And then for the middle tier, we have a bunch of things today. We can use the traditional legacy web services, or you can use a simple class library if there is nothing you want to expose to the external world, or you can also use WCF services today, all right? The reason why we came up with RIA services is that, first of all, when you're developing for a Silverlight kind of a scenario, most probably there is a data CRUD operation that's happening there. CRUD, I mean, is create, retrieve, update, delete there. Secondly, to expose a WCF service very easily to Silverlight is a big task. A lot of work that needs to happen before you can actually make your WCF service work with Silverlight there. The RIA services concept came out of the idea that we want to have a layer on top of the entity model that runs in the background, the data access layer, and how do you take this entity layer to the UI layer with seamless integration with the client. For example, tomorrow if you want to build your own application for Silverlight, you don't want to have all your business rules running on the client because your Silverlight application is running on the web browser and the actual Silverlight plugin is running on the client browser, right? The client operating system. And today with SL3 and SL4, you also have the out-of-browser experiences. How many of you heard about this earlier? OOB. So when you do that also, what happens is most of your logic is sitting on the client there, which you don't want to happen because sometimes it's better to filtering at the server side level there. right? There is a trust boundary that you want to maintain. This data can go here, but my actual data, actual business rule does not need to be a part of the client there. So that is where we came up with something called as the WCF RIA Services. Earlier it was called as ADO.NET RIA Services. Now it is renamed as WCF RIA Services there. And there's a reason why it is called so. The WCF RIA service is nothing but a WCF service with certain additional functionality. Meaning it automatically takes the entity model and exposes that as a bunch of CRUD operations which you can use there. Alright? And it is also useful in many scenarios. You can use the same thing for binding to Silverlight, to WPF, to ASP.NET, or even to plain HTML web pages there. You can do it in a lot of places there. Further, if you want to do some advanced stuff like binding, TCP binding and all this, you can very well do that from the configuration file. But the out-of-the-box support is that you can actually create a 3-tier architecture using the RIA services there. Any questions on this? Okay. So what I'm running now is VS 2010 that you can see here, and this does a lot of work automatically. If you have been to TechEd, you would have seen some of the stuff around this. So it gives you option to do multiple things. You can choose different framework versions. It can target .NET Framework 4, 3, 3.5, 2, whatever you want to do. But the default option is .NET Framework 4.0, and I am choosing this simple template called as ASP.NET Web Application. Okay, and I want to rename this as IPL Application. All right. So this is just to, how many of you are able to follow it so far? Great. So this creates a basic layout, and it actually gives you a bunch of things there. Let's try and run this without doing anything and see what does it do. When I created just a file new application, let's see what it has done. So it has given you a UI, the master page kind of a UI where you have a header, couple of menu items, and a bunch of things here. It also has something called as a login link here. You can see that here. When I go and click on login, it gives me a place to go and log in there. So all of this done automatically. You don't have to do this manually any longer. So we don't have any username or anything, so let's try to register for something. And this will by default use the SQL Express database bundled with it here, but you can also change it to use your SQL Server database there, right? Sometimes it might take a while to create this and give an error as well, because the time that it runs and the database is open for timeout is little tricky there, but it has done that now. So what you see here is that I am now logged in as Ranganathan. Good stuff? So now I am logged in already, and I can see that I can go and register multiple users there. I can manage roles and all, but I will not go into that part now here. So we have a basic application now created there, and a lot of files are created automatically. You can see here. You can see that there is an about page, default page, and all this that's created here. There seems to be a master page also that you can see here, and a config file as always. All right. So first thing, I don't want this to be called as my ASP.NET application. So let me call it as my IPL application. Right, advanced setting, done. And I have a menu items here. As you can see here, I have a menu item for everything, home, default, etc. I'll probably want to create one more menu item, just in the interest of variety. So I want to say something like points, just to have that, or probably one more thing as well, which we will call as, say, teams. So you can see that I'm creating the menu items for all these things. So teams, points, or a couple of menu items I want to add here, and I need to create those pages also. So you can see that it's already having a squiggly line saying that there is nothing like that called as teams. So let's create those two pages as well. So points.aspx and teams. Add new item, teams. So here you go. All right, so we have a couple of pages now, and it looks like a simple portal as well. So when I go to the home page now, I should be seeing all those menu items here. Okay, so nothing is there yet though. So this is done now, but traditionally we create the data access layer first. Do you agree with me? Okay, so let's do that. So what I'm doing currently is that I'm putting the data access layer, the entity model, everything into the same project file, but you can actually do it as a different project file also. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really care where you're putting it there. So one of the things in VS 2010 is that you can actually search for items. You can say that, okay, I want to do something with ADO.NET. It will try and filter all the ADO.NET modules that you want to use. So there is the entity model which I see here. So I want to say IPL model. You will see IPL everywhere here now. continues. So generate from database is an option I get here, and I can go and say which database I want to do this. So I have this database which I showed to you already, and I am including the connection string as well. So at the moment what it is doing is that it is creating an entity model there. I promised that we'll create a 3-tier architecture, right? Data access layer is being created now. It's not exhaustive, as anybody can make out there, because 50 minutes is not the time you create an application, but it will still try to be as much elaborate as possible. So I have a bunch of tables here that you can see here: matches, players, player teams, team points, teams, top scorers. I also have a view called as view players by team, and I have few procedures as well which I can select if I want. So that's about it. So what it does is that it gives you a visualization of the data access layer that we created just now. It gives you all the tables there. You can see that it's not having a very good relational mapping because it's my own database and I'm not very good at database skills. You can see that it has a bunch of tables with properties, match, player, etc. So this is our kind of data access layer that you would want to create there. And what does it do? It creates something called as an EDMX file that you can see here. The EDMX file is what is created there, and you have a designer file as well where you can go and see what's happening in the background. Right? You can see that what does it do? There are a bunch of entities created there, and there are a bunch of contexts created here, and there are some methods done there. A lot of stuff done automatically. So this is what, if you want to tweak something, you can go and tweak it right from here there. So our data access layer is ready, right? How much time we have now? Okay, good. The next thing we want to do is to create our middle tier, and for that, we have a lot of options. Like I said earlier, we can use a service layer using web services, or you can actually use the WCF RIA service also. So what do you need today to do this? You have to install this VS 2010 RTM, or you can install VS 2008 Service Pack 1 for being able to use this here. And then you have to install something called as the WCF RIA Services Preview. It's a preview edition currently available. It's going to tie up with Silverlight release. SL4 release will also have RIA services release together happening there. So until then, it's called a preview there. So it gives you a lot of options here. As I said earlier, I want to search for RIA, and it gives me the options for creating an RIA there. So it says that, okay, there is a domain service class which you want to create there. So I want to name this as IPL business layer. That's the class file you create here. Again, like I said earlier, you can actually do this as a project also. Create a file, new WCF RIA services project, and then add this file as well. So that will give you like 3 project files that you want to do there, if you are thinking about putting it across physical machines. Okay. So you can see that it automatically picks up that there is an entity available, which probably you want to use, and says that, okay, these are the entities available here currently there. Right? If you want to develop with RIA services, this is something you want to follow. It will automatically prompt you with entity model there. If there is nothing there, it will create a simple class, and later you can actually go and embed all the information yourself. But now it says that, okay, I find a lot of tables here. So what do you want to do with these tables here? So I want to select all these tables, players, team, view, and say that I want to probably edit only matches. Okay, I don't want to edit other things there. And say, okay. One thing I didn't show here is what it was having something called as the expose it as a OData concept as well. Let me try showing that in a sec to you. Add new item, RIA. So if you say add, it's asking you, there is one more option you see here. It says that OData endpoint as well there. What this will do is that it will also expose your service as a RESTful service. All of you heard about RESTful service in the morning? Rest. Are you all having a good rest here? Okay. So you can make your service as a RESTful service also by just checking this option. It will automatically do that part for you as well there. So what has it done for me? It has done a bunch of things. It has created a class file and has created all the CRUD operations there. So when I say CRUD operations, it has all the insert, update, delete methods generated automatically. Again, I stand here and say that this is not the ultimate product, right? You would want to add your own business rules there. That is where the fun of developing applications come there. But at least this basic plumbing operations, you don't have to do that because it is done there automatically. You have an insert option, you have an update option, you have an iQueryable list of get, and then you have a bunch of things like delete, etc. there. And for those where we didn't select the edit option, it will only give you the get methods, saying that, okay, these entities are going to be only for get there. So this is now actually using the power of entity model there. Earlier, if you remember, how many of you have seen entity model, samples earlier, entity framework samples, right? When you see entity framework samples, what happens is that you create an entity model and then use a grid control or anything and bind it directly there. And there is a tight integration between the entity model and the UI layer because it's a 2-tier architecture part of that, right? Because you have everything on the single there. But now what you're doing is you're actually separating it clearly, saying that this is going to be a service layer, and then I have a UI layer which will bind to this service layer here. So I can see that there are a lot of get options that I can use, get teams. I can also filter a lot of things here if I want to do that there. But let's use the basic stuff and see what we can do. So we had some things like teams and all, so let's go to the teams page here. Teams page has got this master content template. I'm sure all of you are aware of master page, etc. I don't have to go there. So this page has got a bunch of things here, and on the data side, we have something called as the domain data source there. We named this domain data source because this is something specific to your domain. It's not a SQL data source or object data source. This is going to have your domain specific language, and you can integrate this with anything like Hibernate or anything you want to do, not just Entity Framework. It can actually work with your regular ADO.NET classes also. Okay, but if you use an entity model, you already have an OR mapping layer at the data access layer, and then you have a service layer also. It gives you a very flexible model of your application or developing your application there. So I can add this domain service here. So this is going to be my data source container, which I want to use for this application here. Okay, and you can see that because I'm having this class file in the same solution, I can directly reference this, saying that the domain service for this is going to be IPL application dot IPL business layer. Where does this name come from? This comes from this class which we created here. It's called as IPL business layer. That's the class name that we have right here. Okay, it has also generated the metadata for this class. If you want to go through this metadata, you can actually go through this and see what's happening here and all. But in our page, we have said that okay, this service type is going to be the IPL business layer stuff here. And then I'm going to say that I don't want to delete insert. If you remember, we didn't select this option for the teams thing there. And then one thing I want to know is that what should I do for fetching the records, right? So I need to know where should I get this value here. And then we have a method for that. If you remember, we have a method created here called as the get player. Sorry, get teams. So I'm going to use the same method here. Get teams is going to be my query name. So that is my domain service layer created for you there. Okay. So I need to get this data onto the UI layer. Now I have a data access layer created here, or data access control created here. How do I get it to the UI layer? So I can do anything. I can use a grid control and do this, or I can even manually import this from the code behind as well there. So whatever I do here through the code, I can do it from, through the UI, I can do it from the code also. So this is giving me the option to do configuration of my grid control. So I can say that, okay, this is going to use a data source already available called as the domain data source. Okay. Cool. So this says, okay, I want to, if you want to enable paging sorting, you can do that. I don't want to do that now. I want to just say that, okay, let me make this look a little better. That's all I want to do. So this is kind of ready now. Let's build this and run this page. Teams.aspx. Looks good? Okay. So we have the thing that, the only thing you can see that you can actually see that there is a GIF path that's coming here. It doesn't look good there, so you want to change that also. So first thing is that I need all the images to do that here. So let me add that images folder also here. So I have that in my this thing. So I want to copy this set of images that I want to add to my site here, and say that, okay, this is going to be my images folder here. Okay. After that, I have a very simple task. This bound field should not be a bound field. It's going to be an image field that I want to add here. Image field, and the data image field URL field is going to be coming from team logo path. That's the name of the entity name here, and then the data image URL format string is going to be /images/ I'm giving a placeholder for that. Okay, so that is going to be the format for this data image field there. So now when I run this, the teams page here, looks better? Are you guys able to follow me? Okay, so I now actually have this page looking pretty decent. I have this logos and all there. But this is only doing the retrieve operation, correct? We want to do other things. We want to do insert, update, and all these things there. That's where the power of a service layer comes there. So for that we already have another thing there. Let's go to the service layer and see what's happening here. We have a get method for everything, that's fine, but we also have an insert, update, delete stuff for all these things there here, right? So let's go to the default page, and I want to put a list of all the matches coming here. So quickly I'll change this thing. Welcome to IPL season 3, and here instead of this I want to add again this domain data source control. So there is a reason why I add this thing here. Instead of this, if you can also use the object data source control, which is traditionally something we have followed there. The only difference is that in this case you have to go and manually enable the service to be available there. This one automatically does the context setting in the background. It creates a context on the server and on the client, and it keeps syncing between each other. I'll talk about it more once I complete this demo. So this again is going to be configured. Basically it's going to say that, okay, domain service type name is going to be IPL application. So let me just copy it quickly from this. The domain service type name for this is going to be IPL application dot IPL business layer. Okay, so this is done. Okay, so I'm saying that, okay, this is going to be my thing there. Again I have to say that, okay, query name for this is going to be get matches, and I'm also going to enable a couple of properties here. I want to say enable insert, enable update, and then enable delete, right? Setting all these flags here so that you can do it easily, and the query name for this I've already given that. So that's the kind of thing I have to do here. So one small thing, that when you want to do a lot of records like paging, sorting, etc., by default the entity collection is not ordered. It is not having any order by default there. You have to go and explicitly say that, okay, this is going to be my ordering criteria for this. So for that what I have to do is I have to go to this business layer and say that this particular get matches thing is going to get me something special here. So this matches collection is going to get me dot order by descending, and say that, okay, this ordering is going to happen through my date, or probably match date. That's going to be the ordering property for this list collection there. Once you do that, you will be able to do sorting, etc. easily. So on the UI layer, the default page here, we have again we have this data access layer ready. So we can actually quickly go and grab this grid control and put this up and do all the operations now. So grid is ready for me, and here I can go and say, okay, use this data source, and then say enable paging, enable sorting, enable editing, deleting, selection, whatever you want to do. And then I can say that, okay, make it look little professional as well, right, colorful probably. And then I can say that, okay, I'll go to the source here and say, okay, I don't want to get all these things here. There is a data key name available already. I don't want to put things like match ID, etc. here. Nobody understands anything from these ID fields here. Just want to have 3 fields: match date, venue, and the match result. That's all. So with that, I should be ready for this. All right, so I have this match date, venue, and the match result ordered by the date here, and I can go through this paging. I can do a sorting based on the match date, and I can also edit something and then say this is going to be Navi Mumbai. I can update this also, and I can also delete a record if I want to do that from here. Done. Looks good? And this goes through all the process that you do here. It goes through your, so this accessing that you do here goes through this business layer. You can see that if you set a breakpoint here, it will come and hit this breakpoint and come to all these options here. Okay, and it's not that you have to just select everything that's possible on earth here. You can actually say that I want to get only 10 records. I want to get only 15 records. I can say that I want to just take 10 records here. I don't want to have all the records for my list here. And I can do a where condition also, saying that, okay, I want to have a where condition saying that where something like t, where t dot match result is something, some string I want to do. I can do all this filtering here and conditioning here. Okay, so I can also do it as a part of the regular if condition, etc. If you want to do, you can put any logic you want to put here. Put your business logic here. You can do all this stuff from here. Okay, so that is good. But what about this being a service layer? How do I make it a service layer here? All you have to do is that enable the config file, go to the config file here and add this particular setting to the config file, saying that this is going to be having this particular endpoints for my thing there. Then you can actually have the service as a .svc file, which we are all used to, and make this a service there. And if you are doing it as a service, one thing people keep asking us is that I don't want to make my service available to everybody on earth, particularly all my service methods to everybody on earth. I want to make sure that my service methods do require authentication, etc. Like if you're doing it in your own application, you can do it by putting all this forms authentication, etc. You can do all these things there. But if you are exposing a service as a third-party service, then you actually have a control there. You can say that, okay, I want this service method to be updatable only by people who are authenticated. Okay, so that I can actually set right from here. I can say that all get is working fine, but whenever somebody has to insert this things there, you should say, okay, this particular insert operation requires authentication. So I can say that, okay, requires authentication. When you say this, what it's going to do is that when you say insert, it's actually going to throw an error saying that you don't have a, when you are not logged in and say that I want to do an insert, it will throw an error there. It will say straight away, it will throw an error saying that you don't have the privileges to do this there. Okay, so let's try this with this edit option. So I am going to say that, okay, match update is going to be a method where I will require authentication here. Okay, so what we are doing now is a service layer authentication, not your regular forms authentication stuff that we do there. So when I go to the default page here, I get this thing here, but when I say edit and then when I say update, I'll get an error immediately because it is not authenticated there, right? Definitely not something you want to show to your end users. Although today I'm seeing a lot of applications showing this. You don't want to show this there. In that case, you want to catch this and then put it as a custom error page. That's all. So this will actually bubble up this error to the UI layer also, where I can go and say that I want to have this custom error page which says that can you please log in before doing this operation. So add new item. I want to have a regular web form for this, which says that, okay, error.aspx, and say that, okay, this page is going to have nothing but a simple content saying that there seems to be an issue. Try logging in at ahref tick URL, and I can say that, okay, account, there is a login page available there. This login page is created automatically for me, as you can see here, right? I can say that, okay, this is where I want you to go and log in. So once I do that, this will automatically try to go to the custom error page. Are you able to follow me? I'm assuming that this is interesting so far without any PPT, or I can start the PPT show also now. So this is actually something I have configured here, and I can go to the config file and say that, okay, boss, everything is done. Only thing I have to do is that I have to set a custom error page saying that custom errors mode is on, and then say default redirect is going to be to my error.aspx page. Okay, that's what I want to do here. So hopefully I gave the correct spelling here, right? So now when I go to my home page, view in browser, and then say edit, and then say update, I'll go to my custom error page here. I can click here and then go to login. If you remember, we created a login authentication earlier for me in this portal. Now when I say edit and then update, I don't get an error here. With me so far? So we have actually created a 3-tier architecture. We have created an authentication mechanism also for this there. You could do one more thing. You can actually say that, okay, update is fine, but if I want to delete something, I want to ensure that only managers have this option there. How many managers are here? Managers always have the privilege to delete something, right? Remove. Useless. So to do that, I want to say that, okay, I don't want not just authenticated users, but people who delete should actually be in particular role. So I can say that requires role and say that, okay, this role needs to be a manager, right? You know how I used to hate my managers in the past? Requires role equal to manager. When you do this, if you log in also, you still get an error where you have to go and log in as a manager role there. So this role setting does not happen automatically. When you log in, you have to set the role into the role authentication cookie. That remains the same way. Or you can actually do it simply saying that I don't want to do all this process manually. I can go to my project and then say ASP.NET configuration, and from this page I can go and configure roles if I want to do that. How many of you have seen this page in the past? ASP.NET configuration. Right, so you can see there is a security tab here. When I go there, it actually gives me the list of users. There is already one user you can see here, existing user. right? So I can create multiple users saying that create a user that I want to do manager, then some password for this and all these things there, and then I can actually go and enable the roles and all, etc. I can enable roles, I can create some roles, and then say role name is going to be manager, and then add this role and do all this stuff here. Right? I don't want to go into that example now. So we can actually add this authentication layer also from here, and then say that okay, this application is going to behave based on who is logged in here. So you can see that it's actually asking the config file is actually modified. Do you want to change that here? Okay. So what are all happening here? I can even put my custom method here. If I want to put a custom method saying that okay, public void my method, and this will do something. This method is also available to you on the UI layer. The moment you reference this service, you will get this method also. So you don't have to just go through the CRUD operation methods. You can actually put your own custom methods also here. Okay. So what we did is basically we created a 3-tier architecture, put this layers etc. there, and did all this stuff here. And you can actually expose this to a Silverlight client also. You don't need to worry about okay, I don't want to use it for ASP.NET. I want to use it for Silverlight. You can actually add a Silverlight business application layer and then expose this to the Silverlight also. So same data access layer exposed to different clients there. So what are the things that happen in the background, right? First thing is that it is picking up this domain that you created there. That's what you saw, that wizard. It says okay, check these options are all there. And then finds out that okay, this domain has got this entities, and these entities have properties like name, address, etc. Whatever is editable, it is actually exposing it as a property, and all the insert, update are exposed as simple methods which get the collection here. And then we have a bunch of data controls. The domain's data source control is available only when you install the WCF RIA Services toolkit. I'll give all the links at the end, and I'll post this sample also in my blog there. I had posted an earlier sample a couple of months back when RIA Services was in beta. A couple of things have changed after that, so I'll post this new sample in my blog address as well. So you don't have to note down all the points here. But what you require is that you actually have a grid control, you have a data source control, which has a bunch of properties that you can see here. Right? Service type name is the only thing, it's a main thing. The other things are all optional that you can do here. Okay, so let me go back to my PPT. So we created the UI layer, we created data access layer, and then we also done with the middle tier here. Okay, questions? Yeah. So that's very simple actually. When you do this method generation, you can actually add a method yourself here. You can go to the RIA service layer here, and then say I write my own custom method which combines two entities. Okay, you have to write a little bit of code there, but once you do that, you can actually combine 2 to 3 entities there. Where are you, first one? You are not exposing an entity, you are exposing a method. Already you have 3 entities, 4 entities here, teams, players, player sample, etc. there. So you can just use those entities and then add them into one single method, custom method, where you can actually say, okay, I want to combine both the entities and get the values there. Which one are these? Right. Yeah, so this is template based generation. Yes, it will be available as part of the C:users username, my project templates. You'll go to that, there'll be a small file there. You can actually open the file and edit it. You have to be very careful about it. It's a configuration file. There you can actually go and add some more XML settings. So these things will be generated automatically. Okay. What is the kind of business rule? It's a condition, right? Basically a condition. The business rule can be a condition or it can be a iteration. One of this, right? That you can do it anywhere. It's all a method. So that's the part you want to worry about. When you are regenerating the entity model, this will change. Right? You have to make sure you have a backup file and then do the copy pasting dirty work that we do there. If you are regenerating if you are changing database schema, then the entity model also changes accordingly. Okay, that's something you have to be wary about there. But there is if you are very good about changing this there, if I showed you the entity model diagram there, right? There is this class file generated here, this EDMX file there, and it has a lot of things created automatically, right? If you are good at changing these things manually, you can actually use the same entity model there. Okay, this will not regenerate the CRUD operations. in the service layer. You have to manually go and add them there. But if you want to save this entity layer creation itself from the beginning, then you can actually go and edit the code right from here there. Okay? But if you are not very sure, it's better to create the entity layer again from the new schema that is having there. Okay. You have to copy paste it.
Then we have to read it. We have to copy and paste everything, right?
Last minute, what will you change? Database schema?
No, what I would say, like maybe as a customer will be not be in always they'll be changing in their business rules something.
Will they change the schema at the last minute?
Yeah.
Does anybody here change the schema before you go to production? Very rare. People change business logic.
People. If it is necessary to change the schema. In that case, what happens?
You have to
change
do
everything, right?
You have to sit overnight. You have to burn midnight oil.
Come on, why? And one more thing.
Yeah.
So whatever the thing that now the entity is created, that code generation happen right now. Whatever you have shown that demo.
Right.
In that case, everything is made as objects. Is used as objects.
Link to SQL itself works the same way. Entity framework is an extension of link to SQL. Link to SQL takes this every table it exposes as a class. Every item it exposes as a property, and then all the operations it exposes as a method there. Yeah. That's what entity framework uses there. The difference here is that entity framework will take multiple tables also. You can create it on a view also.
So this is actually based on CSS.NET, whatever before it was built on .NET framework.
I didn't get the question, sorry.
See, there is another framework which is called as CSL.NET. It's been written by some years back.
Okay.
Now it's there. It's based on that actually what your RIA Services created.
I don't know about the first thing that you told, but this is something newly created. This.
Fine, thank
so
you.
I am trying to expose this to the ASP.NET layer, but 90% times you will actually use this in a Silverlight-based scenario. Okay? But you can also use this in ASP.NET. What we found is that we do all this 3-tier architecture, do all this complicated stuff, but people come to us and say that many times you create sites that are very simple in nature. We probably want a bunch of operations there, but that's all we want to do. We don't want this application block, all this complexity there. This kind of scenario is where exactly these things there. You can change, so other things that you want to mention about RIA services, right? How much time I have? 5 minutes, okay. So other things I want to mention about this is that, where is my PPT? Here it is, right? RIA service is where you can actually go and enable TCP binding also, okay? Simply a WCF RIA service is a WCF service, okay? You can expose endpoints, okay? You can expose any kind of binding that you want to do there. It also generates contracts automatically. If you go to this RIA service layer here, it will look like a basic simple class here, but when you go here and then hit F12, going here, I don't know why. It actually exposes this as a contract only. Only thing it does not show there. In WCF, it will automatically show the contract and all this. So it looks very complicated for people to trust in it. But this is trustable. It automatically creates a contract and does all the things for you automatically there. Okay? And 90% it actually helps you do many of the operations people do there today. Okay? Whatever visualization you want to do, change rules, etc., you can change it from the class file itself. If you are changing database schema, then there is a lot of work you have to do. At this point, probably we'll do something for the next release, but at this point, if you're changing the schema before you go to production, first of all, best of luck. Second is that you have to do a lot of work there. Sorry? Absolutely, you can do that. You can do that also. Yes, you can do that. You can select stored procedure. The only thing is that entity model requires you to have at least one table with a primary key to be able to generate the class file. Okay? If you are having only views across your database, then there's a problem without any primary key. You can create stored procedures also and then bind it with this thing here. Just have to select stored procedures there, that's all. The only thing is that that stored procedure which has some tables combined should have at least one primary key somewhere. Otherwise, it will not be able to identify what is the entry point for the insert update operations there. So tomorrow, if you want to create one more domain service, you can do the same thing. You can actually go and create a class file here. You don't have to necessarily create a domain service for every table in your thing. It will automatically create for all the tables you select there, but you can keep adding multiple services also. You can keep adding 1, 2, 3, 4 services also there.
Hello.
Yeah.
You mentioned that we can work with and hibernate. And
Yes,
so
yes, yes.
Any examples somewhere where we can look up
So,
how to integrate with
yeah,
hibernate?
so I will be posting some of these in my blog address also. I'll give you my email address also in case you don't get anything for like a week's time. You can write to me. My blog address is that's my blog address, and this is my email address. And where can I download all this? First of all, I used VS 2010 RTM that you can download from msdn.microsoft.com/vstudio. That's the place you can download it for free. And you can download WCF RIA Services v1.0 for VS 2010. You can also download the similar version for VS 2008 as well. Okay, so you don't have to necessarily have VS 2010. And then you also have download WCF RIA Services toolkit. Finally, you require SL4 toolkit for VS 2010. That's all you require there. Okay, just Bing for all these things, you'll get that. I said Bing search engine, Bing. You can do that. And I'll be posting the sample also there. Okay. Any other question? So the drawbacks that you can see here, right? First of all, WCF by default exposes everything as an interface, and you have full control of what is exposed, etc. Here you don't see the interface implemented in the same class file there. So that is something you would want to think about. Say, for example, I have a real performance scenario where I want to do something very specific about exposing every method available there. Every method should be part of the interface and all this. Those kind of scenarios where you don't want to use this kind of an approach here. Number two, if you are working with something which is critical in financial data, etc., something where you want to have more tighter control of what is being exposed, you don't want all this CRUD operation generation, there it is not a very useful scenario. And that's what I see there basically. Yes, you can put transactions also. Yes. Yeah, you have to add it manually, that's the only thing. So multiple databases, you can do it with the entity framework. When you do the entity framework, so there is one problem there. You need to create the entity framework first, like what I did there. And that entity framework should have a schema where it comes from multiple databases. Okay, so I'll show you that simple thing as well there. So first thing is that when you do an entity framework, add new item, entity. It can also generate an empty model. Okay, there you can go and configure this to use two databases also. Once that is done, the RIA service doesn't care about where the data is coming from. Okay, thank you so much.